So a very warm welcome to our distinguished speakers from the US and to all of our participants from Export Circle joining us from India for today's virtual event, briefing for food exporters from India to the US. I am Naveen Pathak from Entry USA, based in one of the most strategic states of the US, New Jersey. Why do I call it strategic? Is because it's very close to New York City and direct flight from Delhi, direct flight from Mumbai, and 30 minutes from the port, and I'm 30 minutes from the airport. So very close. So at Entry USA, I lead operations that assist Indian companies in establishing and expanding their business in the US market. And that encompasses warehousing with order fulfillment, pick, pack, ship it means, and B2B sales facilitation, L1A company setup, US customs, trucking, all under one roof. I mean, these are big stones in a jar, but to make services even comprehensively complete, we also assist with company compliances, payroll, and last but not the least, very critically important is product liability insurance. In addition, as a cherry on the top, I'm glad to share with all of you that on 1st of May, we are launching our incubator US-India Collaborative Corridor in New Jersey. Now, the question is, how would you all can benefit from it? Well, in case you are in New Jersey, you are free to use this center as your own office for your meetings with your clients or prospects. No charge. So you can come in, have a cup of tea, beer, whatever, enjoy yourself, bring your clients, present your or showcase your products to them. So in addition, as I said, we'll be showcasing selected products from India for the buyers here in the US. Now, to kick off things today, I would first like to express my gratitude to both JP and Blair. Blair is missing in action today from the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, and Shruti Agarwal from Export Circle for your collaboration in organizing this webinar. The idea behind today's discussion is straightforward. Preparation is the key, guys. Preparation is the key. When doing business in an unknown territory or territory you know a little, but not to an extent to do business. At Entry USA, we regularly interact with numerous food companies that list on our platforms. And there are always companies that have queries about FDA approval, certification, customs, clearances, and other importing challenges. Now, to address these issues effectively, we engage with the Port Authority, FDA, and US Customs from time to time, culminating in this webinar. Additionally, the Export Circle, a very vibrant export community, which all of you are a part of, has joined us as a partner, bringing invaluable insights tailored to today's discussions. A special thanks to Shruti, to you for your collaboration. We're also supported by the Consulate General of India, whose endorsement of this program has been very crucial, guys. Thank you, Manishji, for that. Shri Manish Kuladi ji is the Consul Trade at the Consulate General of India in New York City. Our goal for this webinar is to ensure that all of you, all the listeners, the participants, leave better prepared with your specific queries addressed. I encourage you to use chat box for any questions, which we will address, once all the speaker sessions are over. Shruti will introduce the speakers as we move along in this program, and JP from Port Authority will moderate the Q&A session. I welcome you all once again. So now to get started with the agenda of this program today, it's my privilege to introduce Shri Manish Kuladi ji, who is the Consul Trade once again at the Indian Consulate in New York, to offer his remarks. So Manish ji joined Consul Trade and Commerce in August 2022 at CGI New York. His previous assignments include stint in the Customs Administration and law enforcement, where he was involved in work related to taxation, audit, drug law enforcement, and general administration. In his present position, he is responsible for furthering the Indian trade and commerce with the US and to encourage investments into India. Before joining the government, Mr. Kuladi worked with the shipping company in Mumbai. See, that is a formal note, but I tell you all on my personal note, Mr. Kuladi is one of the most dynamic officials I've ever met in the industry, and I am with the industry for last almost 20 years. His vision for Indian products to get introduced in the US market is much larger. And just to share with you all, many of you are aware of the brand called Petal. It is Manish ji who supported them by bringing them to the consulate, and Indian consulate is using the products to be presented out to the visiting guests at the consulate. And thank you, Manish ji. That was a very kind gesture. So government of India became the client of Petal also, and that is because Manish ji looked at the product, met the team, and it was phenomenal. So Manish ji, I welcome you to the webinar. So Consul sir, now the mic is all yours, and we can get started.
Thank you, Naveen-ji. Thank you so much. I just got to know from you that it's my third year going on, 22. I've now realized that 3 years are going very fast. But I am very fortunate to have organizational partners like you, so we can do our work more efficiently and with partnership with your organization. So namaste to all. To my Indian friends, good morning to the ones who are in New Jersey, New York. And first of all, I want to give a big thanks to Entry USA, Naveen ji, Shruti ji, Export Circle, and also to all the organizations, the government organizations like USCVP, US FDA, the New York, New Jersey Port Authority, and I think Department of Agriculture. So all those representatives are here. A big thanks to you, because I know that when all partners combine, then number one, there is synergy. Number one. Number two is there is a lot of knowledge to be shared to the interested ones who want to export to the US. And today we are having, I think, exporters of food products from India with us. So I also thank all of them that they have joined, and they have shown interest in this webinar because they are interested in having a growing trade with USA. So thank you all. Let me start with telling everyone that in the today's geopolitics, or in the today's trade world, India-US trade partnership is very strong and is going to be very strong in the next, say, long period of 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. So recently, PM Modi was here and he met the president of USA. And if you see the joint plan from India and USA, so the target of trade between these two countries is 500 billion. So right now we are at around, say, 120, 130 billion every year, but the target is to reach 500 billion trade in a year, every year. So what does that mean? That means that, number one, export has to be increased from India. The trade has to increase from USA and India both. The kind of products we are right now exporting from India to the US, that has to be diversified. So if we say that now electronics, pharmaceuticals diamonds are having the major share in the export from India, but that has to change if this $500 billion trade has to be achieved. So there comes the opportunity, and there comes the opportunity for the sectors like food products, or the beverages, or the total food industry from India. So I would say that USA is a very big market, and if it is rightly planned, as Naveen ji said in the start, that planning matters a lot. So if we strategically plan the exports and we comply with all the guidelines, we comply with all the rules, regulations, and laws of the US. That is why we are having partners today to tell you more about those provisions. So if we comply them, then I think we can enter into this market, and we can sustain in this market. I would just brief what Consulate General of India in New York's role is in the trade promotion. So one of our objective is to bring Indian products, and the other objective is to bring investments from USA to India, and the mutual aspect in that. But we regularly promote trade And how we do it, we participate in trade shows, bigger trade shows. As a consulate, we take the booth, we invite Indian exhibitors from India, we partner with the distributors here, and we give them a space that our product should be visible here. And people are liking our product. Based on my experience, I can say that our products are good. People are liking those products, but I would suggest everyone that quality is there, but we need to work on branding and packaging. And packaging is very important in the US. The story is also very important here. If you are if you want to export, you cannot just export the product. You have to tell them, or you have to tell your buyers that if the organic food is there, it will be a good opportunity for the export of organic um, products into the US. If you have a story that there is a woman entrepreneur who is doing this, so who is doing the business, that story is also there. If you are a small business, if you aspire to be an exporter in this market, that itself is a story. So my suggestion would be that yes, you can see towards the US market, but also uh, just keep in mind that your branding and packaging should be good. Uh, I would also say that e-commerce is a business opportunity, but e-commerce is mostly for B2C. But if you want to have more trade and if you want to send more export, I think B2B connection is very important. And that is where I think the organizations like Export Circle, like Entry USA comes into picture, who can connect you with the B2B wholesalers or the buyers here, business to business. And that is very important. And that is why you cannot just rely on Amazon Business or something like that. You have to be on the field, you have to be on the ground. And that opportunity is provided by the organizations like this. I can also see, I think we have speakers from different organizations, and I should say thanks to Naveenji for bringing all the organizations here. I thank US Customs and Border Protection in that, and I have regular interaction with many of the officials. And let me tell you that although they are customs organizations, they are very helpful in educating exporters, importers. They are very helpful in telling about the guidelines and the provisions which help any exporter or importer. And in that way, I would say that not only US CBP, but US FDA, Port of New Jersey, New York, US Department of Agriculture, they are not the regulators, they are facilitators in that way. And you can ask them whatever you want to ask, they will help you. And Entry USA is in regular touch with them. So any queries or any questions regarding your export to the US, they can answer that so that your legal compliance should be proper, and then your product can enter into this market. With that, I would say that this is a webinar where you can learn a lot about the US market. You can learn about the organizations which are helpful. You can learn about the legal provisions and what your products needs to be basically licensed, or what are the safety parameters or the guidelines in that sense. So once again, I thanks Naveen ji, Shruti ji, and all the partners. And with regard to any assistance from Consulate General of India, Naveen can give my email address. We can supply the list of buyers, major buyers here. We can organize the meetings here. We can organize buyer-seller meets whenever you want to have. Especially to the food, I just want to say that two big shows are coming in the recent months. One is the Summer Fancy Food Show. So if you want to participate, you should think of that. And here, I must tell you that there's a big show of plant-based expo. So there are very useful trade shows, and USA runs through trade shows. You should also consider participating in those trade shows. With that note, I'm handing over to Naveenji. I wish all the best to everyone in India and also in USA. Thank you.
Thank you, Manishji. Thank you so much for putting all the things together. Whatever you said is absolutely what it is. And yes, everyone, Consulate really supports in a very large way. Let me give you an example. There was a coffee fest last month. And there were brands from India, including one of the brands from the export circle itself, Coffeeza. That was a that Manish ji provided them space at no cost. So Rahul from Goa flew there and made presentations, and I believe that they're working on with some of the clients we connected them with. So this is the kind of support you can get. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Now, so next speaker for us is Export Circle's founder, Shruti Agarwal. Now, with over 18 years in e-commerce, Shruti co-founded D2C Insider, a community of 8,000 plus digital first brands, first that continues to support and inspire founders across India. Now, through Export Circle and Export Connect, she is helping Indian brands explore global markets and navigate the world of cross border commerce. And this you already are very well aware of. She's passionate about community, there is no doubt, it's very apparent. Collaboration and creating meaningful opportunities for growth is also her passion. So, welcome to the virtual event, Shruti. Now, the mic is all yours. Please take it forward.
Thanks, Naveen. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Let me start with something which is close to my heart, why we created Export Circle. For years, I have seen Indian manufacturers and branch owners with incredible products, world class quality, great pricing, and so much potential. But somehow they were stuck. Not because they lacked the will, but because they lacked the how. Export Circle was born out of this gap. We are a not for profit initiative dedicated to enabling Indian businesses to scale globally, especially to the markets like the US, by bridging the gap between knowledge and execution. We are building an ecosystem that supports not just exporters, but brands, manufacturers, and service providers with the right insights, resources, and network to take that leap. And it's more than trade, it's about creating global stories from local strength and driving long-term economic impact for India while bringing value to the world. The US food and beverage market is huge, valued at over $1.5 trillion annually and evolving rapidly. Consumers are demanding health conscious, organic, plant based, and ready to eat products. E commerce is booming, with online food sales hitting $109 billion in 2023 and projected to grow further, making the digital shelf just as crucial as the physical one. India has a strong agri and food processing foundation. We are the world's top producer of fruits, vegetable, milk, pulses, and spices. In 2022, US imports of processed food from India hit a record of $366 million, up to 45%. But by late 2023, it dropped by 60%. That means it's a clear sign growth needs consistency, strategy, and support. Now, let's talk about something incredibly exciting. That is the D2C revolution in India. As of last year, India has over 800 D2C brands, and the market size is over $80 billion. These are the brands that have mastered digital first growth, created loyal communities, and built great products across food, fashion, skincare, electronics, and wellness. They are young, ambitious, and ready to go global. But when we zoom in on how many Indian D2C brands are actually selling in the US, it's a very small number. I think we hardly have 20 to 30 brands who are doing great numbers. We do have success stories like Mama Earth, Paperboard, Boat, Wakefit, and Fresh to Home, but we are just scratching the surface. In a $1.5 trillion food market with growing appetite for clean label, authentic, and culturally rich products, there's so much more we can do. And that's the vision behind our work at Export Circle, to make it easier, faster, and more strategic for Indian brands reach and thrive in global markets like the US. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Shruti. So now moving ahead, we are going to start bringing in our subject matter experts. So Shruti, I invite you once again, start introducing the speakers one by one and moderate the sessions as we move along. Okay.
Sure. Um, I think some of our speakers are having problem. JP, are you able to listen? I think he's not able to listen.
JP, you are muted.
Yeah, some problem with JP and Dan. Others are okay. I think it's happening only with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
Okay, let's then, you know, let's move to the next one, and then as JP gets his uh, mic fixed, probably then he can just come on board then.
Sure.
Right. So you go to the next one, Shruti.
So we're going with U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Noemi Jenkins. She's a seasoned U.S. Custom and Border Protection professional with over a decade of experience, currently leading the document analysis unit within the cargo division since 2021. She oversees the processing and release of inbound cargo across air, sea, and land while resolving complex entry issues including car titles, inbounds, and outbound function. She also leads enforcement efforts around forced labor detentions, coordination with CPP, headquarters, centers of excellence, and the trade community. Her team manages actions such as seizures, re-exportations, and destruction of non-compliant goods. Okay, we are starting with US Food and Drug Administration. Vishal, um, import specialist Vishal graduated Rutgers University with a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. He started his career with the Food and Drug Administration in 2010 at Division of Northeast Imports. He handles routine and complex assignments of FDA regulated products and often works in conjunction with customs and border protection to assure that the products are safe for the US consumer.
Okay, good morning, everyone in America, and good evening to the ones in India. Like she said, I'm Vishal Patel, import specialist with FDA. So, what to consider before you import human foods? Human foods is defined as articles for eating or drinking, including for research and personal use. For product specifics or regulatory questions, you can go to CIFSAN, that's our Center for Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, for more information. Foods imported to the United States must meet the same laws and regulations as foods produced in the United States. Products must be safe and contain no prohibited ingredients, and all labeling and packaging must be informative and truthful. It is the importer's responsibility to ensure that the imported foods is in compliance and to follow the conditions of their customs bond. So another thing to consider before you import products or if you're exporting products is to make sure that you have the proper registration. So food facility registrations are required. So foreign facilities as well as domestic within the United States are required to do the same food facility registration. So foreign facilities engaging in manufacturing, processing, packaging, and holding foods are required to register their food facilities with the FDA and given advance notice on shipments of imported foods to FDA. That's our prior notice that you would be providing that advance notice to. Below are just some of the regulations and helpful links that you can use to get additional information about some of these things. I will touch on some of these things in the presentation, and I can answer questions about it as well. All right, so another thing to look into before you bring in a product as an importer or if you're exporting is to check import alerts. You want to check them to determine if the products or manufacturer is subject to any detention without physical exam or requirements to secure a release of the shipment. Review of FDA's entry submission. So what entry submission is in order to import products into the United States, you have to contract the services of a customs broker. The broker is the only person that's authorized by the tariff laws of the United States to act as an agent for importers for the importers to make transactions for the customs business. Customs brokers are private individuals or firms licensed by CBP to prepare and file necessary customs entries. And they arrange payments for duties, take the steps to release the goods that are in customs custody, and they would be the ones to handle all your customs matters. All right. So what would you need to provide your customs broker? You need to make sure that you're providing complete and accurate information. Documentation will help expedite your review. When we require documentation, we want to make sure that everything that is loaded up into the trailer and transmitted to the FDA is what's on your documentation. Often we see, there's items that were added on to the containers where it wasn't transmitted to the FDA or identified on the manifest or the entry documents. So product names, descriptions must be listed on the commercial invoice. Intended use of the product in the U.S. Name and address of physical location of the manufacturer, shipper, importer, and deliver to party. And if there's any entities that have FEIs or DUNS numbers, those are also requested be added on to the entry documents. Next slide, please.
Yes.
All right. So if you've filed your entry, you're waiting for your import to process, you could stay in touch with your broker and or FDA and provide requested information in a timely manner. If FDA requests documents or an inspection, provide the requested information or documents via ITAX. Documents might include CBP forms, invoice, shipping documents, ingredient list, copies of labeling, photos of the product, formulations if necessary, and process method if necessary. These documents will sometimes expedite the review process, and it makes it easier for our reviewers. Sometimes they might not be familiar with products, so it gives them a clear shot of what the product is right away as they're reviewing it. You may provide additional information that would help the reviewer determine your product is in compliance with the U.S. laws and regulation. To monitor the status, you can also visit ITAX and you may submit questions to the local FDA offices. Next slide, please. So what does our entry review do? The entry review consists of examining of electronic data to make initial admissibility determinations based on the entry documentation received. We have certain timeframes that we work by. Initial entry decisions for perishable goods is 1 business day. So we try to review those perishable products. When your broker is filing products that are perishable for you, they need to identify that in the entry. So it comes up on our end as a perishable product. Non-perishable products, we try to review those within 2 business days. And then documents requested for line entry decisions, we would like within 3 business days to receive the entry documents. When it comes time for our field investigators to do field exams, label exams, and sample collections if necessary, those for entries that are non-perishable products, field work will be conducted within 5 business days of being notified of entry line availability for exam. So food labels and allergies. The FD&C Act requires most foods to bear nutrition labeling and requires food labels that bear nutrition content claims and certain health messages to comply with specific regulations. The laws and regulations requires that food labels identify the food source of all major food allergens used to make the foods. These requirements, this requirement is met and if the common or usual name of the ingredient already identifies that allergens foods source name. So for example, buttermilk, that's fine. So, once the investigators have gone out there and it's time to make a decision on the product, if the product has been released, then it's going into commerce. But if it's being detained or held by FDA, these are the things that we would be going through. When products in your shipment violate or appear to violate FDA laws and regulations, FDA may detain your product and issue a notice of action, FDA action, with the designation of detained. This notice is considered a notice of detention or hearing. The notice of detention or hearing provides a respond by date for the importer, owner, or consignee. The notice of detention and hearing will provide the section of the law and regulation that appears to be violated. Your products may be detained because it appears to be adulterated, misbranded, manufactured, processed, or packaged under unsanitary conditions. If FDA detains your product, submit evidence to overcome the appearance of violation. If you are unable to overcome the appearance of violation, your product will be refused admission. You can work with CBP and FDA to destroy the product or export it from the United States within 90 days of refusal. These are just some more links. Some of these links may be outdated because they've changed around our websites, but if you do search within FDA website, you can pull up any of these items. Okay, so the ACE transmission requirements for human foods. The automated commercial environment, ACE, is a system through which the trade community reports import and export, and the government determines admissibility. So let me just. Okay, so the automated commercial environment, so ACE, is one of 47 partnered government agencies participating in this program in collaboration with with CBP. ACE is a single access point where industry can electronically submit all data required by various government agencies involved in international trade. New filers can request production calls. Actually, that's all I have on ACE.
All right. Thanks. Thank you, Vishal, for your insights. I think it's a real value that you have shared. We now move to US Department of Agriculture. We have Jonathan C. Velle. He is a director of trade activities of USDA's Agriculture Marketing Services, overseeing import-export certification systems and international organic traceability. Her previous served as Chief of Readiness and Deployment at US Customs and Border Protection, leading stakeholders engagement for ACE modernization. Jonathan holds an MS in educational administration and a BA in history, and is graduate of the Federal Executive Institute. Welcome, Jonathan.
Thank you. And also my colleague Bridget is with us too. Perfect. I'll let you advance the slides. So what Bridget and I want to talk to you today about is the organic regulations and the National Organic Program's import certificate update. So if you are actively importing agricultural goods to the United States that are organic, there's been some changes in the regulation. So we want to make sure that you're aware of the changes and what they are. So when you're ready to import, there will be no surprises. So let's go to the next slide. And it's in a, it's kind of in slide view mode or presenter mode. It's not really in presenter mode. I don't know for the rest of us out here. That's what I'm
It's somehow not coming.
That's okay. And we can still
Yeah.
see it. So just for awareness, the new organic regulations for any feed, food, and fiber went into place March 19th of last year. So if you maybe you imported a couple of years ago and you haven't done it in a while, or you're just new to it again, just to level set. New regulations came out to increase the number of certified entities. There was a lot of handling and operators, producers that were not certified organic. So the rule that was put forth was designed to close those loops, strengthen record keeping and supply chain traceability. Now, with the use of electronic import certificates, products that are coming in from overseas, whether they're coming from India or wherever, must be certified in India by a USDA accredited certifier. They will issue an import certificate for that load or a time period, and that shipment can move on into the United States. Just like FDA talked about, your customs broker will need to use that import certificate. There's a 21-digit import certificate that will be required upon filing your entry in ACE. So very important to have that. And again, the other piece of this was to strengthen accredited certifiers. So we changed the way USDA accredits certifiers globally as well. Let's take a look at the time frame just to make sure we're all, we've had some questions on the next slide. Go one more. So, whoops, back, we went too far. One back on slide 3. There we go. Going the wrong way. Can you go back to slide 3?
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you. So this rule was published in January 2023. Again, we allowed, there was a 14-month runway until the March 19th of compliance date, which was last year, obviously just over a year. And then USDA allowed for a 6-month regulatory discretion to make sure all parties were able to adapt to the new regulations, and there were no hiccups. There was no cargo that was en route without a certificate. So that all ended September 19th of last year. So done hundreds and hundreds of webinars and outreach to make sure that all parties on both sides, foreign exporters, U.S. importers, were aware of this new process. So that's just our time frame of the amount of outreach that went into this rule. This is one of the biggest rules for the organic program in the last 20-some years. So a lot of changes in it. Next slide. 2 types of organic certificates. So again, if you are purchasing product or you are a manufacturer over, let's say in India, the farm or the business or the production facility that you're purchasing from should have an operation level certificate or an operation certificate from your certifier. It just means that this facility that is handling, it may be producing, it may be exporting, it may be packaging, they are certified, okay? So there's 2 types of certificates. One is the operation level certificate that just talks about the fact that this building or facility is certified organic. The next type of certificate is what I mentioned a minute ago, the electronic import certificate that is for that shipment, okay? It has to be associated to a shipment, whether it is a one-time, of a pallet of 100 specific quantity of whatever commodity that's organic. It goes to the United States, it gets filed with your entry. Or again, it could be for a period of time. So if it's a commodity, it's a low risk commodity where you're going to be shipping X amount of pallets for the next 4 months, you could get your certifier could issue you a import certificate that's good for 4 months. So it depends on the certifier, depends on the product. So just want to make sure that everybody's aware of 2 types of certificates. One is that operation level certificate, which is just for that facility. The other one is the import certificate, which has to accompany or be associated to a shipment. Okay, next slide. So the import landscape changed a little bit with this new regulation. Certifiers have to be, or I should say, exporters and handlers have to be certified now. Before there were some loopholes that did not require that, but now any foreign operations overseas that are shipping have to be certified. And there has to be what we call the NOP import certificate issued. It has to be issued prior to the movement of cargo. So you can't put the shipment at an ocean conveyance and then request an import certificate for that product, because it will not be allowed to make entry in the U.S. So I think just want to make sure folks are clear. You can't go back and backdate something. It has to be issued before the product is moved. Okay, we see a lot of issues with that, a lot of hangups. So when you're working with your exporter, make sure you have that before the product moves. Otherwise, you're going to have to recondition it because you can't sell it in the U.S. as organic. You either have to re-export it, destroy it. So don't get into that. Make sure you have a certificate prior to movement of cargo. U.S. importers have to be certified as well. Okay, there's a little bit of a connection between the certifier that's certifying the product. Let's say it's a specific type of grain from India. Okay, the USDA accredited certifier issues the certificate for that shipment of grain. They issue it to the U.S. exporter or to the U.S. importer. Okay, so it's issued in our USDA database. They must be certified on both ends, or you can't issue the certificate. Okay, we use our organic integrity database, which when the certifier goes in to issue that certificate, it has to be issued to a certified U.S. importer. Okay, they can't. It has to be in the system, or they can't associate that shipment together. So just make sure that when you're doing your purchasing, buying, and selling in the U.S., that they are certified as well. Okay. Okay. Next slide. Just some high level, statistics from where we are. We've had about 183,000 certificates issued in our organic integrity database. These are from a month or so ago. 49,000 have been processed through ACE as of last year in October. And again, remember, they're not all one-to-one shipments. They could be for a time base, so you could be issued one certificate, and it could be for multiple uses. And again, about 60% of our import certificates are issued by USDA accredited certifiers. The others are our U.S., the countries that we have recognition or equivalency arrangements with, like the EU, Japan, and Canada. Okay, this is just for statistical purposes. And on the right-hand side is the top 12 organic imports. And again, these fluctuate depending on season, but this is where we were as of about a month and a half ago, with commodities coming in that bear the organic seal. This is the running list right now. Next, I'm going to have Bridget talk about some exemptions to this, because does everything require an import certificate? We get a lot of questions about what does that organic portfolio include. So Bridget, I'll let you talk about the exemptions clarifications.
Sure. Thank you, John. So yes, the requirements that John has been laying out apply broadly to products that are going to be sold, labeled, or represented as organic in the United States, but there are some limited exemptions for products that aren't covered by the USDA's organic regulations. And those are textiles. Our organic standards here do not cover the final textile product. Cotton itself would be, certified USDA organic, but the final textile, like a T-shirt, is covered by separate private standards, such as the Global Organic Textile Standard, or GOTS. So those products, those final products, can't make the, they can't have the USDA organic NOP seal, and so they aren't covered by our regulations and wouldn't require an NOP import certificate. GOTS is separate from USDA NOP. Additionally, seafood, our USDA NOP regulations do not cover aquaculture or wild fish standards. So imports of those products would also not require an NOP import certificate. We do have, for example, the US has an equivalence arrangement with the European Union, and the European Union does have organic aquaculture standards. So those products do come to the US and are, make the organic claim on the label, but they cannot use the USDA NOP seal and wouldn't need to be accompanied by an NOP import certificate. And then finally, any products coming in that are below the threshold of USDA NOP certification. So for example, they contain less than 70% organic ingredients. They may just contain, one organic ingredient, and the back of the product label, in the ingredient panel, just lists that ingredient as organic. So for example, organic sugar in a granola bar, and that product is not broadly making an organic product claim and doesn't use the seal. Those products also don't require an NOP import certificate. And again, just a reminder, if any import does use the USDA organic seal or claims to be certified USDA organic, including that products with the made with organic claim, that's a unique certification category under USDA NOP. And some think sometimes that it's not covered. It is, all of these products do require an NOP import certificate to enter the US. Next slide. So I'll just cover quickly current status. John already mentioned some of this, but the regulatory discretion that the USDA was allowing did end on September 19th, 2024. And that means now all organic imports must be accompanied by that NOP import certificate, or NOPIC as we're calling it. And as John mentioned, importers in the US, exporters in the foreign country must be fully certified. They can't be in progress towards certification, they have to be certified and in our database in order for the certification body to issue the certificate. And certifiers cannot issue the certificate. They're unable to if there's an uncertified importer or exporter involved in the transaction. And cases where there's an organic shipment that does not have a valid NOP import certificate, as John mentioned, the product will be flagged and is required to go through reconditioning, reinvoicing, relabeling, because it cannot be sold as organic in the US. Next slide. Now that we have implemented the new requirements, we're obviously working on enforcement. We have a division in the National Organic Program that does that and works with other private and government partners that you see here on the right side of this slide. So what are some of the activities that we're doing to enforce these requirements now, or using the better data that we have through the import certificates? Well, we're doing training and outreach, as we're doing today, to continue to build capabilities and awareness for compliance. We are conducting investigations and taking enforcement actions as a result, and we're doing that with our, with private certification bodies, with our other governments with whom we have, especially with whom we have trade arrangements. We are using some of the import certificate data to issue directives to our certifiers that involve additional oversight activities, such as testing, additional inspections, or related actions. We are issuing alerts and warning letters to industry and buyers when we do identify non-compliant shipments. I mentioned holding and rejecting imports, our customs brokers in the US, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection are supporting us in these activities. Of course, when violations are confirmed, we're taking enforcement actions to revoke or suspend certification, organic certification of parties in the supply chain. We are able to issue legal penalties because the USDA organic seal is trademarked, so that allows some additional enforcement activities there. And under the USDA organic regulations, we can also issue significant fees and fines or civil penalties, as we call them. And of course, if there are criminal actions, we refer that to other agencies, and those can result in prison time for violations as well. Next slide. Finally, this slide has the link at the top to our Strengthening Organic Enforcement Regulations information page. This page has everything from the complete regulatory language to frequently asked questions and different fact sheets that can help folks understand how to comply. So please do access this page, and I think you'll find it very helpful. And I think that's it. I don't know, John, if you wanted to add anything else to what I covered.
Nope, I think that's fantastic. If folks have questions, they can certainly contact us directly, or when the FAQs portion starts, we can do that then. We also we'll share the slides with everyone too.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Bridget. Yes.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Bridget. A quick background about Bridget. Bridget McCloy is an Assistant Director of Trade Activities at USDA's National Organic Program, overseeing organic trade arrangements and compliance efforts. Since 2015, she had held key roles in standard development and accreditation with a broad expertise in organic regulation and trade. She previously worked on global agriculture and food policy projects and served in the US Peace Corps in Ecuador, supporting organic coffee producers. Bridget holds an MS in Agriculture and Food Policy and a BA in International Relations and Tufts University. Thanks, Bridget. Great insights, and thanks so much for taking time to share these things with us. Thank you. We're going next to US Department of Agriculture, Tiffany, which is an animal and health, plant health inspection service. Tiffany Morrow holds a BA in biology with Drew University and an MS in entomology. Her career began in 2005 with USDA APHIS PPQ, working on an Asian longhorn beetle eradication program. Over the years, she's held various roles within APHIS PPQ, including plant inspection station officer, pest survey specialist, and spotted lanternfly supervisor. Since 2021, she has served as co-director at the Linden NJ Plant Inspection Station, leading inspection operations, treatment programs, and federal quarantine enforcement. We have a presentation by Tiffany. Welcome, Tiffany. Here you go.
There we go. How's now? Good?
Okay. It's fine.
Very good. Okay. Good
Just
morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever you may be. Thanks for having me. So my name is Tiffany Morrow, as mentioned, but I also want to mention we have here with us Tapos Mondel, who is the State Director for Plant Protection Quarantine here in New Jersey. So as you heard previously, while we do regulate, we also facilitate safe trade. And so while APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, does regulate imported agricultural commodities in the U.S., we also here at Plant Protection and Quarantine want to facilitate that safe trade. And so we regulate a vast majority of live plants, cuttings, seeds, wood products, fruits, even pest organisms. You could go to the next slide. Okay, so we have our plant import website that has various tiles that can take you through step by step, depending on what you're interested in importing into the United States. And so this is a way to make sure you're meeting the requirements so you don't run into issues down the road when the shipment makes entry. And so you can go to the next slide. Okay, so in order to check our import requirements for our plant products, we have an online database that's called ACER, and this is the Agricultural Commodity Import Requirements Database. And here is your one-stop shop where you can go and enter in the country of origin and the commodity type, which will then pull up the associated regulations. So to keep in mind whether it's propagative plant material, whether it's for consumption, you can use ACER to pull up those requirements. Now, included with those requirements in ACER, it will also list if the shipment requires an import permit, a phytosanitary certificate, and with most plant products, you will need those items. And so it's important to note those requirements again, so you can ensure a smooth entry process. And again, the importance of this comes in down the road during document review, as you also heard mentioned, to ensure you include everything that is required, and that phytosanitary certificates are correct and accurate and associated with the shipment that you're bringing in. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so in some of the things to consider when importing plant and plant products, also found on our website, are these various tiles that you can go through that then take you through step by step. So first, something to consider is, does it even have market access to the US? And the way you can determine that is we have our trade manual that's available online, where you can search to see if a particular product already has market access. If it doesn't have market access, then what you'll have to do is request it. And that can be requested to APHIS for review. And the information needs to be submitted by the country's, the exporting country's national plant protection organization. And so what APHIS will do is take that information and will conduct a risk analysis to determine if there are pests of concern and other things to consider before allowing entry into the US. And like with some of the other items that that were mentioned previously, there'll be a commentary period and a review period during that process. Some other things to consider are what is the use of the product coming in? Is it for consumption? Is it for propagation? Is it experimental? These all come into play during the entry process. Also, is a shipment associated with wood packing material? The shipment itself might not be wood or timber. However, if that material is included in containers, we also have requirements that need to be met to ensure that wood-boring insects aren't making entry through that pathway. You can go on to the next slide. Okay, so if what you want to bring into the US already has market access, then again, you want to follow the guidelines that are laid out in ACER to make sure you're meeting all those requirements. You can move to the next slide. Okay, so as you already heard mentioned, ACE is your one-stop shop. So that's the automated commercial environment. So USDA, CBP uses this for filing. So here's where you would file the APHIS core message set into ACE. And this is your way to notify of incoming shipments. And so this is where you want to ensure that you have all the appropriate documentation ahead of time so this can be provided. This is also, as you heard mentioned, where a customs broker comes into play, and they're familiar with this, and this is where they facilitate including these documents. So it's very important that the correct documents are provided to the customs broker. Some common issues we see with filing are incorrectly filing propagative plant material versus non-propagative material. That causes issues along the line when certain shipments are transferred to the plant inspection station, which I'll go into in a few slides. And that can also cause issues with holding up shipments. You can go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, plant inspection stations work closely with customs. It's part of our inspection process for propagative plant material. And so when the entry documents are reviewed in ACE, part of this is to determine if the shipment needs to be transferred to a plant inspection station. And you can go on to the next slide. So again, just some ways that customs and plant protection and quarantine work together. As I just mentioned, there are instances where a shipment comes in at the port of entry. CBP has reviewed their documents and has inspected. However, depending on what the item is, APHIS may have entry requirements. And this is where ACER comes into play, where you're making sure you're meeting all the requirements. So something commonly brought in that's not propagated material are cucurbits, cucurbit seeds for consumption. When you look in ACER, it will outline that this requires condition of entry treatment for a pest of concern like capra beetle. And so I'll get into that in a few slides. Condition of entry treatment is, just for clarification now, is a commodity that requires treatment in order to make entry into the US. And this is regardless of whether a particular pest is found or not. Another common item is cumin. Associated with this shipment is contaminant, federal noxious weed, Asphodelus fistuliosus, also capra beetle of concern. So this is where CBP and PPQ work closely together. For these shipments, CBP communicates with Plant Protection and Quarantine regarding the transfer of these shipments to be treated, and the treatment portion is overseen by PPQ. And then just below, I just want to mention some propagative plant material as an example of when a shipment comes in and CBP does the document review, and as long as everything's uploaded correctly, they know those propagated plant materials need to be transferred to the plant inspection station in order to complete the inspection before entry into commerce. And you could go on to the next slide. So just briefly about plant inspection stations. So as you heard, Port Newark, New York, very conveniently located. Our plant inspection station is only about 20 minutes outside the port. So that allows for easy transfer of these shipments that need to go to the plant inspection station for inspection. And that includes, so that would include propagative material arriving in the US. And so for the inspection, we utilize risk-based sampling, which is a way to target high-risk commodities, which considers which country of the country of origin and the plant material type. And this will then guide us as to which inspectional units, whether it's boxes, sometimes things comes in racks, that guides us onto how much and what to inspect. And this allows us to really focus our concentration on the inspection on higher risk material. You can move on to the next slide. And just here, I just want to show some examples. This is some of the items that we inspect at the plant inspection station. It includes cuttings, bulbs, rooted plants. We also do some molecular testing for pathogen Ralstonia on cuttings. You can move to the next slide. Okay, so again, so as you heard mentioned before, when it comes to the entry process, there is a document review process. So customs is verifying that a shipment has all the appropriate entry documentation. Holds also come into play with shipments where there's a suspected, that is high risk and there's a suspected plant pest or disease. And so these shipments will be then inspected. And the process for holding will show up as a USDA hold when it's an agricultural commodity of interest. And so to help facilitate this process, again, I can't emphasize enough, including the appropriate entry documents to make sure at least that portion is in place. So when the inspection is completed, could quickly facilitate the movement of the container. I do also want to mention here CBP's National Agriculture Release Program. And again, as I mentioned before, just like the plant inspection station conducts risk-based sampling, this program is a way to evaluate high volume agricultural cargo and allows faster movement of shipments that might be of lower risk. Again, and this is to help facilitate and concentrate efforts on shipments that are higher risk. You can move on to the next slide. Okay, so now comes into when an inspection is being done, whether that's at the port of entry for CBP or whether that's at the plant inspection station. When we do an inspection, if there's a suspected plant pest or disease, then that is collected and sent over to our plant inspection station to be identified by one of our identifiers in the major disciplines. We have a botanist, an entomologist, and a plant pathologist. Again, and this is for all pathways, not just maritime cargo. It comes into play with express courier, air cargo, passenger baggage. Anything that's that is a plant pest or disease is sent over to us for identification. Now, depending on what the identification is, will determine next steps. So whether that's taking additional phytosanitary actions, which I'll get to in a minute, or there might not be a treatment that's possible for that commodity and that pest. So those are some things to consider when you're seeing a USDA hold In addition, as mentioned before, with perishable commodities, lots of times we are getting herbs from Israel and other perishables. Our identifiers work to identify this as quickly as possible, and communication is then sent back to customs, where customs will then relay that information to the broker or importer regarding the status of that shipment. You can move on to the next slide. Okay, so I mentioned before phytosanitary treatments. So these are treatments, either chemical or non-chemical, that are required either for condition of entry, as I mentioned before, like cucurbit seeds, or when a plant pest or disease is found. So this can include fumigates, sprays, and the non-chemical treatments, cold treatment, radiation, heat treatment, as some examples. Now, this is the part that we often see a lot of issues with. So I just want to mention the importance of the coordination between an importer and exporter and broker. So there are times where a phytosanitary action, such as a treatment, is only going to be required if a plant pest is found. However, if a shipment comes and does not and is not presented in a way that can be treated, this causes issues and major holdups in cargo. So, for example, if something comes in sealed plastic bags and a pest is found, there is no way to be able to treat that that shipment, because the phytosanitary action, which is often fumigation with methyl bromide, cannot penetrate the plastic. And so here is where communication on entry requirements is important, and the packaging comes into play here with these requirements. If preemptively shipments are prepared in the event that a pest is found, then this can facilitate movement of the cargo if there is a treatment available. So, for example, in that case where it might have not required condition of entry treatment, but a pest was found and needs to go for treatment, if the packaging is appropriate, the shipments on pallets for proper airflow of the fumigant, CBP can then transfer that to APHIS certified facility to undergo treatment. And this treatment comes into play with PPQ as we oversee these treatments. So just another example of the cooperative nature, how closely USDA and CBP and all the agencies work closely together to try to facilitate the movement of your cargo. You can go on to the next slide, which I think is it. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tiffany. Thank you for unpacking complex topic in such a clear and impactful way. We're moving back to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. We have John Paul Richer. He's the Northeast Regional Account Manager as the Commercial Outreach Team at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Since joining in 2016, JP has played key roles in port operations, infrastructure projects, and emergency coordination at the New Jersey marine terminals. In his current role, he focuses on business development and industry relations, working closely with shippers and cargo owners across the Northeast to promote the Port of New York and New Jersey, the busiest seaport on the US East Coast. JP is a US Coast Guard veteran with over 20 years of service and holds a degree in public administration from Fairleigh Dickinson University. Welcome, JP. All yours.
All right, now that we're past those technical difficulties, I'd just like to introduce myself. I wasn't mentioned before, but my name is Dan Gastaldi, Senior Logistics Analyst with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey. I'm going to turn it over to John Paul who will start us off, and then we'll switch places midway through. But thanks for the opportunity to present today.
Thanks, Dan, and good day, everybody. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but thank you for bearing with us, and thank you, Naveen, for letting us join in and being able to share some information with you and the rest of the attendees today. So, as mentioned earlier, my name is Jake Richer. I am the Northeast Regional Account Manager for the Seaport of New York and New Jersey's Business Development and Insurer Relations Group. Seaport of New York and New Jersey is a part of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. We are the nation's first bi-state agency. And we are governed by a board of commissioners that are appointed by the governor of New York and the governor of New Jersey. We are a financially self-supporting entity, which means with the facilities that we operate, we facilitate the revenue that we generate from there is what we use for enhancements and rehabilitation and for payroll and things like that. We build, operate, maintain the transportation infrastructure through air, land, rail, and sea in the New York, New Jersey area. Next slide, please. The Port Department, breaking it down, we develop and maintain port facility areas and marine terminals. We advance and deliver upon port capital initiatives to ensure that the marine terminals and the port facilities are updated, maintained, and are continue to be a port of the future. We promote the facility. We promote our facility as the premier cargo gateway on the East Coast, largest port on the East Coast, second largest port in the United States. We also oversee the leasing and administration of facilities and improvements of all the port's real estate assets. Next slide, please. So when we talk about seaports, a lot of people think about containers and shipping containers, but here at the Port of New York, New Jersey, we are more than just a container port. We have 3 auto processors. We have a passenger cruise terminal. We also process various bulk commodities such as salt, scrap metal, Belgian block, edible oils, orange juice, and cement. We also have the capability to do heavy lift project cargo, out of gauge cargo that can't fit inside containers. We also operate a rail system, a cross-harbor barge system called New York, New Jersey Rail, which transports containers from New York, New Jersey to New York via a rail barge. And we also have a vast warehouse and distribution and trucking network within the Port District and beyond. Next slide, please. So just to give you an idea, last year, 2024, by the numbers, the type of cargo and the amount of cargo that we were able to move through the gateway, over 8 million TEUs were moved through the gateway. I mentioned our rail capacity capabilities. Over 600,000 rail lifts were conducted last year. Through our auto processors, we were able to move over 400,000 autos through the gateway. The one cruise terminal that we operate, we were able to facilitate over 800,000 cruise passengers, and almost 3 million metric tons of bulk cargo moved through the gateway last year. So we are strategically located in an area where we have access to large consumer markets. So cargo and commodities and things that come through the Seaport of New York and New Jersey can reach over 13 million people within 1 hour of a truck drive. When a truck leaves the seaport within 2 hours, there's a net that can be cast to reach over 27 million consumers. And then within a 4-hour truck drive, 46 million consumers or more can be reached from the Port of New York and New Jersey. Next slide, please. Also expanding our access to key inland markets and more consumer markets, we have our $600 million rail program, which boasts 4 on-dock or on-port express rail facilities that serve all of our marine terminals. We operated with the 2 Class 1 railroads, CSX and Norfolk Southern. I mentioned last year we did over 600,000 rail lifts, but we have the capability or the capacity to do over 1.5 million annual rail lifts a year to cover over 50 destinations in the United States. Next slide, please. So as everybody is aware, the alliances for the ocean carriers has changed since 2024 to 2025. We at the Seaport of New York, New Jersey do business with all of the ocean carriers that conduct transatlantic service. Next slide, please. You can see this is where the changes are, where the Gemini Corporation is now Hapag-Lloyd and Maersk. The Premier Alliance is now HMM, ONE, and Yang Ming. The Ocean Alliance remains, and there are a few more independents. But what I want everybody to take from this is no matter which ocean carrier you were doing business with to get product across from your location to the Port of New York and New Jersey, those ocean carriers all do business, all have vessel calls, and all make calls here at the Port of New York and New Jersey. Next slide, please. Just to get a little bit more specific about a new West India North America service that was established last year with Ocean Network Express. It's a weekly service from India, and it comes to New York and New Jersey as first U.S. port of call. On its way to New York and New Jersey, it stops in other areas along the way, as you can see on the map here, and touches on Mediterranean destinations before the U.S. And it's served and operated by a fleet of nine vessels.
And I'd like to jump in now and touch up on some of the data side of what we've seen at the Port of New York and New Jersey over the last several years, as well as what we're expecting in the near future.
Yes, I can hear you. Yep.
All right, thank you. Sorry about the echo there. And again, just want to echo appreciation for having us on today, and we apologize for any technical difficulties on our end. So as we can see here, this is what we've seen since 2019 in cargo volume over a year long annual metric. What you see normally in the Port of New York and New Jersey and across the country in the United States is seasonality. You have your slowdown at the beginning of the year, and then cargo picks back up, and then you have Christmas cargo, the seasonal cargo as we call it, which normally starts in May to June and then will last until October. That's normally our peak season here in the United States and in the Port of New York and New Jersey especially. COVID-19 pandemic threw that off completely, and we had essentially peak season throughout the year in 2021 and 2022. Now we're back to some normalized levels. You can see here the 2024 volume is similarly seeing peak seasons at the same time as 2019, which is the pre-pandemic comparison. Now, how impactful were these 2019 volumes? Well, the COVID-19 volumes. In 2022, which was our record year, we were at the levels that we were expecting in 2030. We hit 9.5 million TEUs, which is 8 million more than what we had last year. And it was far beyond what we expected in our Port Master Plan, which was a 30-year plan that was developed and launched in 2019. So we have now we're preparing further for that increase in volume. We did handle the volume well. We did see a little bit of congestion in our anchorage, as did many of the U.S. ports. We topped out at about 24 ships waiting at anchor to call the port. And this is just due to, there's more containers being moved and vessels being worked slower because of the amount of containers that were on terminals. But we were able to make it through it, no problem, and we are now adapting and continuing to build out our infrastructure. Now, some of the regional imports that we see from India are carpet, paperboard, textiles, glassware, pharmaceuticals, apparel, appliances, and furniture. India, we saw an average year-over-year increase of 34.87% for the top 10 commodities coming out of India. And India is currently our number 2 import trading partner and number 6 export trading partner of the Port of New York, New Jersey. It's a very strategic location, not only for the Port of New York and New Jersey, but for the East Coast, based on some of the shifting of manufacturing you're seeing away from China and going to Southeast Asia and India. And you can see that here on the next slide. In the dark blue is the 2024 volume, and in the orange is 2019. You can see while China dropped a little bit, India, Vietnam, Thailand, and South Korea all picked up cargo volume. And that is indicative of that shift from manufacturing in China to India and Southeast Asia. So now more on the Port of New York and New Jersey's key accomplishments in 2024. One of the big accomplishments we had was launching an interactive port map on our website, allowing for the public and businesses to easily access information on the port's capacity and capabilities. having that information out there for the public and businesses is extremely important for them to know that we are a premier gateway on the East Coast and in the country. Another big, wouldn't call it accomplishment, but we came and helped and really displayed East Coast port resiliency and supply chain resiliency was after the tragic collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland. The Port of New York and New Jersey, along with other East Coast ports, was there to support the cause. Not only was cargo being diverted from Baltimore to our port, but there was a rail line set up from our port to the Port of Baltimore to assure that individuals were able to get their cargo as quickly and efficiently as possible. There were also a number of automobile vessel calls that was diverted to the Port of New York and New Jersey. So additional automobiles were handled as well. So, now Baltimore is back to up and running after that tragic event, but that event not only showed that the East Coast is there to help each other, but the entire country is there to help each other, and that supply chain resiliency is a key factor to keeping the supply chain moving at all times. Some other big key accomplishments we had were signing another sister port agreement with Marseille Fos Port, and that is something that we're always looking to do: is sign sister port agreements with partner countries and partner ports, just to keep that relationship and collaboration going between our ports. Additionally, we maintained safe operations throughout the port complex and safe, environment during the ILA work stoppage. We maintained that safety before, during, and after, which was extremely important and had a huge impact on the port. Our port strategic goals are very simple. We're looking to optimize efficiency of the movement of cargo at our port, maximize land use, minimize the environmental impact that the port has on the region, improve freight rail utilization and fluidity, ensure resiliency of the port operating environment, develop the workforce of the future, and develop capital infrastructure capacity. Now, these are huge focuses of the Port of New York and New Jersey and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as a whole, to maintain competitive advantage on the East Coast and to remain the premier gateway on the East Coast of the United States. Now, we have a number of different ways that we can reach our stakeholders, and one of them is through our port stakeholder outreach program, specifically for warehousing. We've developed a survey and sent it out throughout our entire stakeholder base and supply chain to ensure that we can get as much information as possible and have it readily available for businesses and the public on our website. We've gotten a lot of people putting their information in, and that is readily available on our website if you want to go take a look. Something to update here, and a program that I manage currently is our foreign trade zone program. The Port of New York and New Jersey manages FTZ 49. There's currently, we just wrapped up our annual report, so we're now up to 38 operators, and that zone is employing over 10,000 local workers, which is a close to 50% increase. Not mentioned here, the zone in 2024 handled $17.2 billion of cargo through the zone. And the type of activities that you see in a foreign trade zone, are meant for duty deferral, duty reduction, or they call it inverted duty, or in the case of re-exporting imports, damaged goods, or scrap, duty exemption. The next slide, you'll see our port supply chain dashboard. And this is really geared towards enhancing data visibility at our port. This is provided on a weekly basis to our stakeholders, as well as updated on our website for anybody to come see. There's a number of different pieces of information that are shown here that are extremely helpful to our stakeholders, especially our trucking community, including single move and double move turn times, as well as activity on a weekly basis, and then giving updates on what's happening at different areas in the world, including the Red Sea, Suez Canal, which has been a slowdown for many of our ships calling our port that are utilizing the Suez Canal, coming from the Southeast Asia and Indian region. That disruption had a huge impact at first, but the supply chain, as always, is resilient and adapted to that change and has continued to move. I want to put a plug out there on an event that we're going to be having. If anybody is in the New York, New Jersey area, on June 3rd, 2025 this year, we're going to be holding our first ever Cold Chain Summit. Last year, we tested the waters and had a cold chain roundtable, and it was a successful event. So this year, we're going a little bit bigger, and we're doing a Cold Chain Summit. More details are to come, but it'll likely be at the afternoon of June 3rd, 2025. June 3rd is definitely set. We just don't have the afternoon time set yet, but more to come on that. If anybody has any interest, please feel free to reach out to JP or myself on that event. And now finally, why choose the Port of New York and New Jersey? Simple: access, capabilities, capacity, and improvement. As JP mentioned earlier, we have one of the largest consumer bases within a 4-hour drive. 46.3 million consumers within a 4-hour drive. If your cargo is getting through the Port of New York and New Jersey, it's going to stay close to the Port of New York and New Jersey. Currently, our rail share of cargo that's getting railed to the Midwest or to other locations is about 14 to 15%, which really shows the amount of cargo that's staying in our region. This is now 47 weekly ocean carrier services, and we are still 75% first port of call, which means the loaded ships are coming here first to drop their cargo off. And if you wanted to use our rail system, it's likely going to get to your location or at least loaded onto the rail before the next port of call. Our capabilities they speak for themselves. Last year, we handled 8.7 million TEUs with no issues at all. As mentioned earlier, we handled close to 9.5 million TEUs in 2022. And while there was some backlogs at our anchorage, we were still able to handle the cargo and get the goods to the shelves for our consumers. To speak a little bit more on what JP mentioned, our 5 marine terminals are being serviced by 4 intermodal rail facilities, which we call Express Rail, and have 1.5 million annual rail lift capacity. Currently, we're at less than 50% capacity. So if you have cargo that's coming onto the East Coast, we have room to bring it to the Midwest or other locations for you. And finally, improvements here at the Port of New York and New Jersey. Across the board, there's many different improvements that are happening that are being funded by us and also by our stakeholders, specifically our marine terminal operators. $3 billion has been invested over a 15-year period by our terminal operators. And we're looking, and they're looking into the berth improvements. We've already raised the Bayonne Bridge, which was a monumental project that was a marvel of engineering. The bridge was never closed. The bridge was raised while cars were still maneuvering on the bridge. And that allowed us to bring bigger ships and more cargo into our port, increasing our capacity. And the harbor deepening was done in the mid-2000s, and we're going through a second phase of that, which we've just been approved to go to 55 feet. So there's more to come on that, but we were dredged to 50 feet. Now we're going to 55 feet to remain competitive and to allow for those bigger ships to call the Port of New York and New Jersey. And also roadway enhancements and technology initiatives are in place. We're currently going through a major roadway project in the Port of New York and New Jersey called the Port Street Corridor. That project is going very smooth right now, and we expect the Corbin Street ramp to be completed by September 2025, and then the rest of the project to continue to go through its phases without any flaws. I just want to thank you all for having us on today, and we really appreciate the opportunity and time. And here's contact information for our entire business development team if you have any questions or concerns. Thanks again. JP, do you want to mention anything before we wrap up?
No, thanks, Dan. Just wanted to echo what you said. Thank you everybody for having us. If you have any questions, concerns, inquiries, anything like that, you have our contact information. You can reach out to Naveen and everybody at Entry India or Entry US to reach out to us as well. And we look forward to speaking with you and working with you moving forward with the Port of New York and New Jersey. So thank you for your time and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, JP, and thank you, Dan. That is fantastic. Quickly, I want to add to the audience that, first of all, my apologies that how I have no idea that Zoe did not work out. But anyways, that is for later. But I want to add something to the audience here. You see, New Jersey has 5 trade zones, $3.75 trillion in economic output. I tell you something with India relations, Dan. This is in relation to why choose Port Authority. But on top of it, the relationship between India and New Jersey is way more stronger than people know about it. New Jersey is the 4th largest trading partner of imports and exports of India. And India has invested $2 billion in New Jersey. And it is the 2nd largest Indian born population in US, New Jersey holds. And 10 of the top 14 Indian pharma companies are in New Jersey. And guys, this is for you because you are in food business. This bullet is for you. Edison and Iselin in New Jersey are the largest Indian business hubs in the US. So if you want to do business in US, then New Jersey is the state, and if New Jersey is the state, then Port Authority of New Jersey, New York becomes your automatic choice. That's it. So thank you so much, Dan. Thank you so much, Jean. So sorry for all the mess up that has happened. I think we have created some history using two different, these Zoom and not Zoom, this Google Meet, and
Yeah.
it has never happened. But I can see Lori there. Lori, I know we have passed the time. I don't want to hold on to anyone. My apologies. We will again redo this webinar in next couple of months. But if Lori, you want to add on to something, please feel free. If you have to leave, I understand. My apologies to all the speakers for today's mess. But Lori, the mic is yours if you want to take it forward.
Hello, everyone. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, very well.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Our security settings usually probably are pretty high. So if something doesn't come in, we're not really allowed to kind of download anything. So Noemi, so anyway, as an introduction, my name is Lori Kuo. I'm the Chief Agriculture Specialist here at the Port of New York, Newark. You may have heard me on some of these before. Today, I was going to have my supervisory CVP officer, Noemi Jenkins, on to discuss not specifically agriculture, but more overall CBP import, specifically forced labor and IPR violations. That's really more of her wheelhouse, and she's a subject matter expert there. So if there was any desire to have this, we have no problem, doing this again for people on a different, on a platform that works. If there are questions, I'm certainly here to solicit for questions. I can answer anything I can, but Noemi can't join if she has another meeting. I don't want to kind of speak wrongly because she's really the subject matter expert for the IPR, forced labor, any other kind of CBP import questions that there might be.
Okay. Shruti, please, we have to wrap it up within 5 minutes. So if there are pertinent questions that you see on the Zoom on Zoho, can you read those out?
Yes,
so that,
yes.
if we can address those, at least we can just cover some part of it.
Yes, half of the questions have been answered. Some of them have asked for trade shows, presentations, recording sessions. One question, one can apply for USDA certificate directly, then please suggest the roadmap and associated fees. It's by Ishal Roy.
I apologize. What was that question about USDA?
One can apply for USDA certificate directly, then please suggest the roadmap and associated fees.
So for CBP, just generally speaking, for CBP agriculture, we kind of enforce the regulations for USDA. If you have any questions about the importation guidelines regarding whatever product you're bringing in, that's really, we're going to push you over to USDA. They govern all the regulations about whether or not you're importing anything from a fresh fruit, vegetable, animal product, animal byproduct, processed products. There are a lot of different, everything is different, right? Depending on the country of origin, depending on the commodity you're bringing. Anything about those importation guidelines really should be directed to USDA. We just kind of enforce those. There's other divisions of USDA as well, but for CBP purposes, we really deal with importation.
Sure. Another question for you, Lori. Can an Indian exporter sending their organic goods directly in Amazon FBA warehouse, then can we apply for USDA certificate directly? What would be the process or form for it, and what are its fees? Is it charged SKU wise or blanket registration fee? Further, while sending US FBA shipment, there are no buyers yet. Goods will first reach to the Amazon warehouse, and from there it got sold. Then in case, who will be the importer? Is individual importer also require NOPIC?
Okay, so For importations, it doesn't matter if it's organic or not. That's not, maybe as an organic designation, there's another division of USDA that kind of certifies the organic status. If you're just importing into the United States, you would have to meet the importation rules for that fresh fruit, vegetable commodity. It doesn't matter if you're shipping it through air, it doesn't matter if you're shipping it through sea, it doesn't matter what freight forwarder you're using, it doesn't matter what carrier you're using. All of those importation rules are governed by what item is it, what country is it coming from. USDA will then have whether or not you need a permit, a certificate, a specific statement, depending on the kind of product. It's not going to matter if you ship it through Amazon or a different carrier, if you ship it through the mail or air or a vessel, those rules are all the same. If it's commercial cargo and your item requires a phytosanitary certificate and an import permit with the USDA, that's what it requires, whether or not you ship through mail, air, or sea. So whether or not it's through Amazon, Amazon is required to still fulfill the same rules as any other carrier that's bringing in international cargo into the United States. You're still subject to the same entry rules, tariff rules, duty, all of that when you're importing here. So it's not really about the organic status. It's not about the carrier you're using. It's really about ultimately what is the product, what country is it from, and then what are the entry documents that it requires.
Okay. I think we've got one last question. Rest people are talking about buyers. Guys, I think we can answer that later on. Are plant-based food and plant food two different categories? Plant-based example, millet flour, plant food example, any fruit.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Yes, are plant-based food and plant food are two different categories? For example, plant-based food is millet flour and plant food is like any fruit.
Okay, so it does matter. You know, if it's like something that's a fresh commodity, that's going to have one set of requirements, right? Importation requirements. If it's processed, then that may have a different set of requirements. So it does depend on exactly what product you have. When you go to USDA, they're going to ask you, you know, what is it? Depending on, especially if it's like an animal product or includes any kind of animal product byproduct, like baked goods, for example, they may require processing, right? Baking, temperature. So it does depend on what it is and what exactly you're bringing in. So there is a wide range of products that have importation rules. I can't even give you a rough idea because it's so different depending on the country and the product. But yes, it basically does matter what kind of product it is. And there are some processed products that do have different sets of guidelines, especially when it involves animal product.
All right. Naveen, I think we are done with the questions now.
Sure. Well, you know, let's end it now. I know it's almost 2 hours with all the mess, but thank you, Lori. Thank you, JP. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jonathan, Tiffany. Naomi couldn't join, so sorry for that. And apologies for this once again. But I guess we still, you know, try to cover as much as we could. JP will talk once again and see if we can just, you know, redo it maybe sometime next month, giving ourselves some more time. And I promise I'll use Zoom or WebEx or Teams, but not Zoom. I'm so sorry for this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining in. And for all the presentations made, we have those. And the video, whatever we have the video. It's getting curated right now. So I'm going to put everything together, send it as a one pager, and you will run the presentations and be able to download all the, you know, the presentations and see the video. So with that said, guys, thank you once again. And all the members in India, if you have any questions, you send those questions to Shruti. And Shruti, we can structure those questions depending on FDA, Port Authority, or USDA or US Customs. And then we can segregate those, and then we can, send these emails separately to the speakers and see whatever best they can reply us to. So, this will help us out in a big way. Everyone, I know there are changes happening, so we got to wait up. And I'm pretty sure India, will do very well with business in the US. And since I'm doing it for last 20 years, I can tell you, this is, maybe there are some changes happening, but a great time coming. All right, guys. Thank you, JP. Thank you once again. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All have a wonderful
Thanks,
rest of the day.
everybody. Appreciate it.
Dan, thank you so much, my friend. You take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.